Welcome to Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo, episode number 19. My name is Gabe Estel, and I'm here with my co-hosts Dennis Levi Leach and Jonathan Getz. How's it going, guys?
Hola.
Rock and roll.
Hola.
That's what I like to hear. Well, guys, we're going to start the show off tonight by talking about really what is my favorite time of the year. Pitchers and catchers are reporting to spring.
Yes.
Life
Finally.
is a perk again. So most teams are reporting. I think the Cubs report tomorrow. No, Cubs reported today, which we're recording this on Thursday, the 19th of February. And then the White Sox report tomorrow. And the Royals, I'm not sure. Are they already down there?
Yeah, they're like stretching and shit. So
Our team's playing Arizona. So I think Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo should make a trek out there because all three play. You know, we don't have to split the Florida, Arizona.
right,
You know?
right.
So
Nice.
That'd be great. Yeah, and have you seen the photos? There's been photos of these old chests that teams have that they've been using for years that they put, I don't know, catcher's equipment or whatever in. And they've been using the like one chest for 50 years.
Wow.
And they're pretty cool looking.
Neat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
This is with the Royals, or is it with a bunch of different?
It was a couple random teams.
Okay.
I forget exactly who. I'll have to dig them up and post them on our Twitter.
One of my favorite parts of spring training as well is to see. Yesteryear might be too strong of a term, but to see kind of players trying to make a comeback. We talked about sort of topic a couple weeks ago, but like just looking at some of the names on the white side, like Brad Penny is trying to make a go of it.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Giovanni Soto is trying to make a go
I
of,
saw that. Yeah.
which he's actually
I
got.
think he could break through.
Yeah.
I think he actually will be our backup catcher. But gosh, there's a couple others that escape me at the moment. But Brad
Is Ricky Henderson still?
Ricky Henderson.
Julio Franco? They're still trying.
Julio Franco might be a Jamie Moyer. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it's always fun to see those names. Like I keep thinking I'm going to see like Sean Green or Cliff Floyd or something.
Yeah, that's an interesting dynamic with those sorts of players because that's kind of an untold story in baseball. The guys who are really just hanging on, for a bit more of a paycheck, or just because they like to play baseball, but they know that's they're 37 or 38 and they probably aren't going to make the team, but they just want to hang out with the guys or something. And it's pretty romantic, I guess.
Absolutely. I've never been in the position, but I could see why someone would want to do it. I mean, I don't know Brad Penny's financial situation, but I know for a while, for at least 3-4 seasons, he was a pretty coveted pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
He played with the Dodgers, and when he's on a few teams. He bounced around a little bit, but I would imagine he was awarded one lucrative contract at least. So yeah, the dude might just be doing it like you said because he wants to see what's left in the tank, or he just kind of likes the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Be that heartbroken if he has to go home.
Oh, and I mean these guys, 37 or 38. Yeah, that in sports terms that's old. But it's different because that's just us in a few more years, and we wouldn't exactly be ready to retire in a few years, no matter how much money we had. Because what are you going to do?
Right.
Other than spend your money.
Yeah. One name I wanted to throw out there is Johan Santana still kicking around somewhere?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so. Because he was coming back a bit.
Like the most sought after pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look into it.
Yeah, maybe a little longer than 5 or 6 years ago, but whenever he joined the Mets.
Yeah, and then he would come back and he would be solid for a couple months, and then he would, the elbow would inflame or something. And
right. Dontrell Willis kicking around?
No.
Oh.
Well, I will cock my hat to the side.
But I'm glad that spring training's finally here because I'm tired of hearing the countdown of days to pitchers and catchers reporting, because I like not having to pay attention to a sport for a little bit. And baseball is a long season. And I mean the World Series just finished up a few months ago, and it's like let's just not talk about baseball. all hours of the day, other than this podcast.
Right.
And because it's refreshing to come back and then, re-examine everything anew. And, it's one thing for Susan Sarandon to talk about it in Bull Durham, how many days till pitchers and catchers report. But hearing 45-year-old men mention it every day on Twitter is a little less endearing, I guess.
Fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll say this, and I think I've said it before. I think spring training's too long. There's too many games.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need 30 spring training games.
I mean, I don't even know. I guess they play the full game just because people are there watching. But I mean, what is? I don't know. It's like a half a game, really, in terms of effort.
Oh yeah.
Split squads.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think guys guys have to stay. You know what I mean? Like if it's the regular season and you're at the park, you know what I mean? You stick around until the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think in spring training, I think they can leave. If that's sort.
Yeah, they got to go open a steakhouse or something in Scottsdale. Yeah.
Fajitas at the Chili's next door to the ballpark.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I would imagine all of the steakhouses and gentlemen's clubs right now in Florida and the area. Yes,
it's a boon to the economy.
Yes, absolutely. But I don't think they need to. They play a full month. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is excessive. I agree.
Yeah, 5 weeks of games practically. I mean, shit. It's just I say start March 1st, 2 weeks a game, 2 weeks of conditioning, 2 weeks of games.
Yeah. Yeah, it would probably do it, considering how long the season is as well. I mean, jeez. And, who's going to be the one guy? Somebody's going to blow out a knee or an arm in spring training. Who's going to be the guy? Like a big name. It's going to happen. Who's it going to be?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, when you play 30 games, somebody's bound to get hurt,
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah. And also, I don't know all the specifics. I think rookies reports, there's a rookie camp as well. I don't know. Do you guys know that? Some guys stick around longer. Some guys.
Some guys into the season
longer.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So it's a big enterprise, really. The whole thing. So spring training is starting. Also, the summer concert season is shaping up.
It's been dry for a while, so it's nice to hear some dates spitting out.
Right. Yeah. Right. We've talked a little bit about, some of the festival lineups have been announced. Bonnaroo has been announced. The Hangout down in Gulf Shores, that one was announced. I think pretty much
Coachella,
a lot. Yeah. Coachella was been announced. AC/DC playing Coachella, which I definitely can get behind. I think pretty much just about all of them but Lollapalooza have confirmed the bulk of their lineup. So, yeah. Pitchfork, right? Yeah, Wilco's going to play Pitchfork.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that is cool. Wilco's played. I think they've played every possible venue you can play in Chicago. Out.
Yeah. And that was badass when they did that 1 year where they played several different venues in the span of a couple weeks. Was it?
Yeah, of varying sizes too.
Yeah.
I don't quote me on this, but I think they might have played one show at Shuba's. And Shuba's only holds 200 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I think. I know they played the Metro, which isn't that big either.
No, the Metro's.
It's bigger than Shuba's.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah.
But what was it? It was 4 or 5 different venues in the span of a week or so.
Yeah, they played kind of some of the venues they normally play. They played the Riviera down the street. They played one of the bigger theaters downtown, either Chicago Theater or the Auditorium Theater. I think they played the Aragon as well.
That's pretty cool. I mean, you never hear bands doing anything like that. That's pretty neat.
And I mean this as a compliment. They're kind of Chicago's house band, Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, but anyway, the summer concert season is shaping up. One tour that I heard about this week that I think sounds like a hoot is doesn't contain Wilco. It contains although they would be an interesting addition to the bill. It's Def Leppard headlining, which they're always kind of out on the road in the summer playing the summer sheds, with somebody usually at this point in their career. Def Leppard, Styx, and Tesla.
Woo!
I know. I don't like.
I want to lift up my shirt to that.
You know, right?
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a really good time, and the dates, like it. I wish they were playing downtown, but they're playing out in Tinley Park. God, I wish I could. I'll try to look into going. Like that would be a perfect show for the State Fair, Levi. Like
that would. I mean, yeah, they're gonna have to. The breweries will have to start making more draft beer now to supply that tour with enough beer to feed all the audiences.
Record-setting beer sales.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
yes.
Yeah, so that is just going to be just a DUI frenzy waiting to
Yes.
happen.
Do you think that they had to like coordinate with Coors Light to make sure that there was
Right.
enough? You guys are going to want to start now.
Right.
Yeah.
Start stocking up in March. The show isn't until August, but yeah. Yeah, I think it sounds like fun. You know, it's a blatant well, not blatant. Probably not as much as those like Rock Never Stops tours from a few years ago, but
Yeah, I don't think it was as blatant as last summer's tour that I did. It was
thing that you saw.
the Blues Traveler, Sugar Ray, Smash Mouth, and Uncle Cracker. Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah, this line.
I mean, I really like, I was into Blues Traveler a lot back in the day, and it was nice working with them, and like I enjoyed their set.
Right.
But all the other people it was just like
No. Yeah, but fuck it. I'll admit it, man. As I get older, I have no guilty pleasures. I like all three of those bands. Fuck it. I like all three of them, dude.
oh yes.
Yes, particularly
Tesla.
Tesla.
Tesla just played the
Tesla.
pageant about a month ago and sold it out.
What's that?
Tesla played the pageant about
In St. Louis?
yeah, a little less than a month ago, and they sold it out.
That's what I like to hear, man. Good
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Sacramento's finest, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good for them, man. Yeah. They tour a lot. I saw them in Peoria, which seems like the perfect place to see them.
Or Rockford, or like a Moline.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's Tesla territory.
Oh, definitely.
It is.
Yeah. And that sounds patronizing when I say that, but I don't
No,
mean it that way.
Not at all.
I saw them in Peoria at the Old Madison Theater, which I don't think hosts shows anymore.
I think
To my knowledge,
if
at
it's not
least.
torn down, I know I think they may have torn it down.
Yeah.
Is that where we saw Widespread and like as 110 degrees?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
saw Government Mule there.
It was a neat little theater in Peoria.
In the late 90s, early aughts, it was kind of like the jam band stop for Central Illinois.
Yeah.
Like Mo played there.
Yeah.
It was Peoria's wetlands.
Yeah, right, exactly. Good,
That's
well
too bad
put.
that they tore it down.
Yeah,
I know. I think it
We're not having shows
it
there.
fell into disrepair, and
Yeah,
Jay
that's too
Goldberg,
Oh,
Goldberg
right.
Productions,
Mhm.
he owned it, and I think they just
Yeah.
one of those things were just
Yeah, but now Panic played there a few times. I think that time we saw them was the last time they played there. I think.
I know I saw Mo there, and it was like 1,000,000 degrees as well.
Yeah, it's just a hot old theater, man.
Oh my god! Like they had like two little fans who were up in the balcony, and I'm always I'm the last guy that would ever think of taking a shirt off at a concert. But dude, it was off in like
Everybody
15
had
minutes.
We all did, dude. Yeah.
And it was like 95 outside during the set break. They let us go outside to cool off where it was 95 degrees.
Yeah. Like people were like buying bottles of water just to dump it on their
It,
head.
it was amazing.
I also
Amazing.
remember, I better wrap this up here in a second and move on, but I also saw, we went down to the lobby and the show was sold out, you know, I mean, this was like 1999, so that was like, you know, kind of the peak of Panic's popularity. You know, so it was just so much body heat, you know, in the lobby, and everybody's slimy. I saw this couple like intensely making out. And I'm like, I don't care how attractive you are. Oh, like to do that in 100 degrees, like after you've been sweating all night. Fuck, I don't know if ecstasy was involved or what.
Of course it was.
Hell with that. I don't care who it is. All right, seriously. It's just like, oh, I almost threw up. I was like, oh, God, that's gross. So anyway, I mean, hardcore. Like he was like holding her and just like everybody like just. Like, it was like it looked like a joke kiss, you know, like it looked like Will Ferrell and Christine Wiig, you know what I mean, like making out or something. It was like I was like, no way. So anyway, I don't know, yeah, but anyway. Good. So nonetheless, spring training is starting. Tours are starting. It's a good time.
It's a good time of year, and I guess I was just looking for something to bitch about when I hear people counting down the days.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, it's a good time of year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So that leads us to tonight's theme and the heart of the order. This was driven by, well, a guest that I'm going to tell you about here in just a little bit. But, I read an article. We all love barbecue. Jonathan lives in one of America's barbecue meccas.
And a half a mile from one of the greatest barbecue joints in the world.
Absolutely. I haven't been to all of them, but I've been to that one, and it's pretty damn good. But anyway,
Oklahoma Joe's.
I read Oklahoma Joe's, yes. I read an article the other day that the price of brisket has skyrocketed. Yeah, which I guess that was always a pretty cheap cut usually.
Yeah, it used to be like a butcher cut, like the butchers would take it home.
Yeah, right. It was kind of like what was left over, like nobody wanted that really. But the popularity of, I think, Texas style barbecue has really, which is pretty brisket heavy, has just driven up the cost, and it's gourmet might be too strong of a term, but it's like the price has gone from like in like big markets like New York and San Francisco and LA, like from like $3 a pound to like $13 a pound.
Wow. Brisket's the new bacon, man.
The new bacon, absolutely.
Thank God, because I'm kind of tired of hearing about fucking bacon.
Right? Yeah, bacon. Yeah, that's they've kind of rode that.
They've played it out. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So anyway, I was like, well, got me thinking, and we had a guest lined up to talk a little bit about Texas's place in music and baseball.
Oh yeah.
Anybody from Texas will tell you that it's a place that has a culture unto itself and a unique spot in the American landscape. So I just want to go around quickly before we talk about tonight's guest. Do you guys have what's your strongest association with either Texas music or Texas baseball? Let's do it that way, and then we'll get to we'll unveil the guest after that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I have a weird memory of Texas because my family, we would go to Colorado every year, and sometimes we would come back through the top of Texas, and we would stop in Amarillo, Texas. And so, like, my dad would always tune in, like, whatever country stations, we could get on the highway, and we would always be listening to, like, classic 70s, 80s country.
Right.
And so, we would stay at the Big Texan, which is the place where you have the 72-ounce steak with the baked potato and the salad and the shrimp cocktail. And if you eat it all in an hour, it's, the free or whatever.
The next one's free.
Yeah. The pool at the hotel, I'll never forget because I was a little kid. It's in the shape of Texas.
Beautiful.
The pool is.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Everything's better in Texas. I think that was like a bumper sticker. Yeah. So that's like classic country is my
nice. Nice.
To me, to piggyback on that, for country music, its place is almost, to me at least, as important as Nashville.
Oh yeah, I think even more so for the country music I am into.
For the stuff that I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
Waylon, for me.
Waylon, Willie.
Yeah, I mean, just for that whole just litany of songwriters as well. Like Waylon and Willie obviously are big names.
Van Zandt, Guy Clark.
Yeah, right. I mean, like Waylon and Willie, became superstars.
Rodney Crowell.
But yeah, like the guys that you just mentioned, Guy Clark, Townes Van Zandt, Rodney Crowell, I think not necessarily household names among just general music fans,
yeah.
Like people who like Texas country, obviously those guys are legends. But I would say that I could mention those three to some of my friends who I think have good taste in music, and maybe aside from Towns, they wouldn't know who those other guys are, possibly. Even, then they wrote a bunch of songs. They wrote artists for other people. Steve Earle's another guy you could add to that list, too. So yeah, the Texas, for me, the strongest association is the Texas songwriter, the kind of Texas troubadour. A lot of the people who were profiled in one of my favorite documentaries ever, Heart-Worn Highways. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's chronicles, I think it was shot in about 75, and it just kind of chronicles in a very documentary style. There's no narration or anything, just sort of that scene of Texas singer-songwriters.
David Allan Coe.
Yeah, David Allan Coe's in it. He plays at actually the prison where he was an inmate. He
drives his own bus.
He drives his own bus. Yeah. He's in the Decked Out in the Mysterious Rhinestone Cowboy stuff.
Yeah, it was that era.
Yeah, it's great. He had just such a kick-ass band then too, I think. But yeah, Towns, Guy Clark, Steve Earle, Rodney Krauss, a guy named Steve Young, who wrote Seven Bridges Road, which the Eagles covered and became popular. John Hyatt is in it. So just so many great people are in it. Charlie Daniels, is in it. So yeah, it's just such a good documentary. So that's probably my strongest musical association. And for baseball, I remember the mid '80s Astros being pretty good, and they won the title. They won the division in '86, and you guys remember that's when Mike Scott was one of the best pitchers in baseball at that time. I think he might have even won a Cy Young in the mid '80s. But they had Glenn Davis.
I was always proud of my '86 tops, Glenn Davis.
Right, Billy Hatcher, who they got from the Cubs.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's some other guys out there that I'm forgetting at the moment. I did some research on it. I guess that championship series between them and the Mets in '86, I guess, is one of the best championship series of all time. It went into 7 games. I think one of the games went into 14 or 15 innings. It was Mike Scott was just on his game. The dude just couldn't throw a bad pitch. And then
I guess that was overshadowed by what happened in the World Series.
Exactly.
For that season.
And then a ball went between Bill Buckner's legs.
Yeah,
and that's what people think of when they think of 1986 in baseball. For me, the Texas songwriters and the mid '80s Astros.
Yeah, I failed to mention my baseball, and it was real easy. One guy, Nolan Ryan.
Oh yeah.
As a child, it was if you Texas and baseball, because he was on both teams.
Both teams, yeah.
You know what I mean? During my era of collecting, and so it was Texas is all about Nolan Ryan.
Yep.
Absolutely, quintessential Texas baseball player.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, and actually, I saw, the famous, one of the more famous Nolan Ryan moments is Robin Ventura in the headlock.
Oh yeah.
You got to see that, huh? Nice.
No.
I was like, whoa, you were at that game?
No, I saw a photo of it.
Yeah,
which we've all seen, obviously. But we were on our way down to Austin a couple years ago, and we stopped at Salt Lick Barbecue. Is just there's one just north of Austin that is incidentally right next to the Round Rock Express Rangers AAA affiliate stadium. Okay. It's in Round Rock, Texas. And so in the Salt Lick restaurant, which we went at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we just walked right in, past all of these what you knew were what would have been lines, hours worth of lines, and but there was nobody there because it's 3 o'clock on a Wednesday or something.
Yeah.
And got the brisket, of course, and it was pretty amazing. It's definitely the best brisket I've had, with all due respect to Joe's. But Texas is they're the champions of brisket, and you didn't no knife. It was
God.
thick, dude. It was like that thick, and just a fork, just a little bit.
God.
You could eat it with a spoon, man. It was pretty phenomenal. But so I'm chowing all this down, and right next to me is a framed signed photo of Ryan giving Ventura the business.
Great. I guess that Franklin barbecue joint in Austin, which I think is new.
Went there, yeah.
Oh, you had that one too?
Yeah, I got in line at 10 a.m. and barely got in at like 12:30 before
I heard they run
out.
out of food at 2:00 every day.
Yeah.
And like some people like camp out overnight.
Yes. Yeah. We got there an hour early.
I don't know.
To stand in line, and we stood, and it opened, and we were in line for another hour after they opened.
Jesus.
Yeah. It was pretty good. I prefer the brisket though from Salt Lake.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, this like really hip looking Ira Glass guy runs that place, the Franklin's place. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like the dude makes killer barbecue.
Oh yeah,
he looks like Ira Glass. So anyway,
Bourdain went there, Obama went there. It's pretty big.
It's like the hot place,
but it's tiny. I mean, or Salt Lake is the big one down there. And I'm speaking as an out-of-towner, obviously, and Franklin is much more modest.
It's the Gillies of barbecue. It's huge.
Huge.
Yeah. I mean, the Dallas-Fort Worth area has good joints, too. You know, I don't know if they're quite on par with the places you just mentioned, but I've had some good barbecue just in the DFW Metroplex area as well. So, good deal. Well, you know, we mentioned some of the great Texas songwriters, Townes Van Zandt, Rodney Crowell, Guy Clark, Steve Earle. You know, there is another guy who should be added to that list who's made some great music, and his name is Will Johnson. You guys might remember Will from some great bands, South San Gabriel and Centro-matic. Will's also put out some of his own material, which is really superb as well. So we are really honored to have Will on the show to talk about baseball and to talk about music. He's also going to tell us a little bit about his artwork as well. So we recorded this portion earlier and to accommodate Will's schedule, and we're going to weave it in this episode. So you'll see us change clothes. But yeah, we are really, I can't state enough how honored we are to have Will on the show. And so enjoy our interview with Will Johnson. Will Johnson, formerly of Centro-matic and South San Gabriel. Will is the Tommy Herr of North Texas rock and roll. So we are so glad that Will is here with us. Will, how are you doing?
I'm really good. Thank you.
Great. Excellent. So we wanted to talk a little bit about, obviously, our subjects here. Spring training's right around the corner, and I know, Will, you're a lifelong Cardinals fan. How do you view the Cardinals going into 2015?
Well, given the strange way that everything ended, and the very sad nature of the end of the season with the loss of Oscar Tavares and all that, you know, there's definitely some unexpected things on the horizon, without a doubt. I'm real curious. Like, one thing I'm real curious about is to see how Hayward fits in,
right.
And of course, you know, how he deals with how he starts dealing with the lefties and how they start getting Carlos Martinez into the starting rotation. I think that Martinez was pretty ripe for the picking for that last year, and for sure his time is here this year. And in my opinion, he's one of the more exciting pitchers to watch in baseball, and so my hopes are high for him. I think they'll be in the thick of things. I'm real curious. Honestly, I'm real curious about how the Cubs are going to stack up in the Central this year. I think the moves that they've been making are pretty amazing, and I think, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how all those puzzle pieces fit together. It'll be interesting to see also if they wind up truly being the contenders that they're spending the money to be, you know. But without a doubt, I think the Central is just going to be. I think it's going to be even more exciting this year. So I'm naturally all buttons are flushed to the console this time of year anyway, just because the sun's starting to come back out and pitchers and catchers are reporting very shortly and all that. So, but with all that said, I feel like the Central is going to be as exciting as ever this year. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, good stuff there. I like the comment about Hayward. To me, that's a guy that's really, I think, bound to break out. You know, he hasn't in Atlanta. He didn't necessarily put up the numbers I think that people thought he would. And then, you know, he's coming to a winning team in St. Louis and a team that I think is expected to contend. So
I'm hopeful for that. You know, I mean, a lot of players. It's been a strange phenomenon over these last 10, 15 years at least, but a lot of players that you think maybe, you know, their skills are diminishing some, or maybe they're falling off a little bit, have come to St. Louis and totally resuscitated their careers, namely pitchers for the most part, but still.
Also Carlos Beltran, too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, precisely. You know, yeah, and even going back to like Jeff Weaver in '06, I mean, that was something that I had real, like, I don't know, not doubts, but my eyebrows were certainly raised when they made that move in late July of '06 and they got him over to St. Louis, and then he winds up being a hero of the World Series. And I don't think anybody really saw that coming. So I don't know, that's backtracking a bit, but at the same time, I'm real curious to see how the new environs maybe affect and hopefully inspire Hayward. I think he's a great ball player, and I'm super excited that he's on the team. I hate the circumstances that, you know, that brought him over. And, it's been really since Pujols was on the rise years ago that I was that excited about a Cardinal future with Oscar Taveras. I really just thought there was so much natural, raw, and incredibly beautiful talent there within that kid. And so to lose him was obviously a tragedy far beyond baseball, but to family and friends and, you know, like his community without a doubt. But given the circumstances, I'm hopeful that Hayward will fit into things, you know, well in St. Louis.
Yeah, you mentioned Pujols, Will. The organization really seems to rebound after losses really well. You know, I mean, they severed ties with a guy that was sort of like guy was putting up like Lou Gehrig type numbers, you know, for most of his career, and then he goes to Anaheim, and I wish the guy well, but it was just a precipitous drop off, man, right away in Anaheim. So the Cardinals really kind of made out like bandits on that one.
They sure did, and I didn't totally see that coming either. But then again, it just goes to show that I don't know a fucking thing about baseball. You know, I just don't know anything about baseball. I love it, but I may doubt a move or be suspicious of a move, and then it winds up being, you know, something like that to where it truly does work out for the better, and there's no way I could have seen that coming.
Yeah.
Beauty of it, you can't predict. Excellent. Well, I wanted to ask you, you know, the Cardinals have been good for quite a while now, and really probably the elite National League franchise now that Atlanta's kind of dropped off a little bit. Are there any downsides to being a Cardinals fan?
Oh my goodness. That's a really good question. I wasn't prepared for that one. You know, there was one downside of being a Cardinals fan. It wasn't a downside actually, but it was just slightly difficult with many of my best friends who are lifelong and diehard Rangers fans. It was really October of 2011. My phone went silent for a good while there, and understandably so. I just wasn't hearing from many of my buddies for a while, and so that was a little bit of a lonely patch, I suppose, but not a downside or anything. I was obviously happy with the result and the outcome. I didn't like it for all of my Rangers pals, and even for the Rangers themselves, I find them to be a likable organization. There's a lot of ball players on that team that I really loved from that particular edition of the Texas Rangers. So in a way, it was a little difficult and conflicting. But as far as downside, I wouldn't call it a downside at all. It was just a little bit of a lonely patch, I suppose. But hey, man, if I get to be lonely and cheer on a World Series winner, I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll take that. That's okay. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, want to talk a little bit about Jonathan's got a few questions here about some of the baseball paintings you've been doing, which you can check out on Will's website at will-johnson.com. So, Jonathan, I'm going to hand it over to you for a second.
Yeah. So, I've Will, these paintings that you do with the ball players, like a quick brief bio that they contain next to them, and I have the Roberto Clemente hanging in my house here, and the Pete Rose one has dawned my cubicle wall before. So I was curious about how you started the paintings, and then how you decide who to paint and what kind of bio info to include.
I started doing those things maybe 6-7 years ago, and really the result, they kind of cropped up. I moved into an apartment. I got through a breakup, moved into an apartment, and honestly just didn't have a ton of stuff to hang on the walls that I liked. So I figured, man, I'm just going to make some paintings to hang on my walls to kind of, I don't know, spruce this place up a little bit. It was honestly a home decor decision, predominantly a home decor decision. And then after I did a couple of them, I really discovered that I enjoyed learning more about the history of the game that I've loved for all my life through each painting. Each one, the research for each painting taught me a little something new about, players that had been on my horizon since as far as I can remember. I mean, Hank Aaron and Roberto Clemente, of course, but then I started to dig a little bit deeper into the history of it, and to some of the lesser known players and some players that kind of flew under the radar of household name status. And then I started painting some of those guys as well. And really it was just a transmission of the story. I really wanted to at the same time learn more about these players, but also kind of share the story with the viewers of the paintings. So, for instance, a lot of people didn't know that Moses Fleetwood Walker, spoke several different languages and, was stabbed within, mere inches of his life, at one point after his career. A lot of people didn't know that Eddie Goodell was a riveter in World War II because, he could fit into small spaces, got jobs like that a lot of the time. So anyway, there's just a handful of things that kind of crop up with every painting or two that just teach me something new about this game that I've loved so much. And so that's a lot of the purpose and a lot of the motive for making these paintings. And I may go from a really famous player. I mean, I may go from a Casey Stengel painting or a Babe Ruth painting and jump right over to, something lesser known, like Pinky Whitney or, who did I paint recently that was a little bit off the radar? Oh man, I'm blanking right now.
Well, yeah, you've even had guys like Carlos Zambrano.
Anyway, I'll just kind of bounce around a little bit and go from the well-knowns down to, regional ball players from Texas that I just want to learn more about, or maybe want to focus on doing a collection of Texas ball players. So it just kind of depends.
Yeah, and even the ballparks, that you've covered a few ballparks as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I've always kind of been fixated on ballpark and stadium, just in general stadium architecture. I think some of the thought and some of the decisions that go into to making some of these stadiums, and baseball in particular, just because you can get pretty quirky with measurements and even putting a hill with a flagpole in center field or whatever, however you want to do it. But I get real fixated with it. I think it's pretty amazing. It's just an amazing piece of architectural history, just the history of the stadium in our country. And so every now and again, if I get time, I'll just paint a stadium that I'm kind of into, or that I think is kind of legendary, at least in my mind. And that can go from major league yards down to old minor league ball yards that existed in Dallas or even Alpine, Texas. It doesn't really matter. I think it's more the story behind the stadium that kind of inspires me to have a go at those. I did recently just finish this very large 2-panel stadium piece of Disco Demolition Night in Nice. Park in 1979. And it's a pretty chaotic painting, but it was a whole lot of fun to make.
Yeah, the Tribune released some photos from that night a few years ago, and they're great photos, man. If you get a chance to go,
yeah, I'll look at them. There's a lot of nudity in my painting, and you know, my kids have questions, but whatever, it's out there for the taking. It's fine.
Nice. Well, when we hit the big time, we'll have you commission a Shin-Soo Choo one that you can do. All right.
Yeah, by all means.
He's a Texas woman. Yeah, so absolutely. Excellent. By the way, also the Clemens one really is great, man. I really the Clemens one. It really captures that moment really well.
It's a little dark. You know, he's got better things to do than get upset with me, I suppose. But he does hang around Austin a lot. His kid is pitching for the Longhorns now, I guess, and he's hanging around Dish Fault Field every now and again. But again, he's probably got better things to do than come after me. And it actually, he can't say anything because those are the words that he spoke right out of his mouth in front of the Supreme Court. So I figured I'll just use his quote.
Yeah, and you know, Roger was my first favorite player as I got into baseball in the early '90s and late '80s, early '90s, and you know, after he went to the Yankees, then I kind of wrote him off as being a traitor or whatever. But the steroids probably played a bigger role in my attitude towards him. But yeah, looking at your painting of him, I almost feel like I need to have that hanging on my own walls just to kind of bring closure to my appreciation of what he did and to what he turned into.
Yeah, I think, without a doubt, I can't dismiss that guy entirely for the fact that there's a chapter of his career that is astonishingly good. I mean, it is undeniable. It's just an undeniable thing, and it's really joyous to get to watch that. But you're right. I mean, I think what it turned into, and in turn, kind of what he turned into in the shadow of it all, is really a little mystifying and honestly a little disturbing at times. I mean, I've reread that quote probably 50 times, and it's still just mystifying to me. It's unbelievable to try to figure out the circuitry that was kind of going on in his mind at that time when he gave that answer.
Yeah, he's pretty fascinating in that sense.
Absolutely.
I don't ever want to meet him. I really don't. I don't.
No.
Whatever.
No.
Yeah. Well, could you? You're going on a living room tour of the Southeast right now, Will. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for the living room tour and how's it been going?
It's been good. I'm only a couple shows in right now, so thankfully the car still smells pretty good. It doesn't smell like, regional jerky and like sadness yet. So it's good. The laundry's clean and the shows are going good. They're mostly all selling out, and it's fun. I'm doing an annual Valentine's night show tonight in a tiny little town called Waverly, Alabama, and I think this is the third or the fourth one that I've done, and it takes place in this 1800s schoolhouse, and I guess they pack maybe 50 of us in there, and people dress up and bring food and stuff like that. It's kind of a fun scene, but the real joy that comes from doing tours like this is that it just peels things back and kind of puts everybody on neutral turf as opposed to your standard venue climate where you may have talkers at the bar or, flat screen TVs going or, just peripheral stimulation that you necessarily want when you're trying to experience music. And I think it changes folks' behavior. just for the fact that everybody's kind of got to make a special effort to find the place and know about the show. There's no press, there's no radio, there's no advertisement. It's really strictly word of mouth. And so I think it intensifies things a little more when it's done like that, but it also hopefully makes the experience a little more memorable too. Each show's kind of its own snowflake. And so I like to do it. The overhead's low. I carry an acoustic guitar, and I don't work with a set list. So I just kind of walk in about 10 minutes before the show and stuff. And
Very cool, man. Well, keep up the good work. Will's going to be in Birmingham on the 15th, and then Atlanta on the 16th, and down to St. Pete on February 18th. So while you're on the road, Will, what's been on the dial, man? What have you been listening to?
Man, I've been listening to the recordings of this great songwriter named Mickey Newberry. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's a Texas guy, and he passed away maybe 12, 13 years ago. But he's kind of one of those songwriters that was revered and loved by many much more famous songwriters, and he wrote for people as well. But he's the one mentioned in the song Lukenbach, Texas, actually, when they're talking about Hank Williams' Pain songs or Hank Williams' Train songs, Newberry's Pain songs. That's the reference to Mickey Newberry, and so I've been kind of obsessing over his writing lately. And then also, goodness, what else is in here? What else I've been listening to a little bit lately? A little bit of this writer named Sam Amadon. He's a Vermont songwriter. Really like him a lot. And my friend Anders Parker's new record, been listening to that a good bit. And then this Polish, this is going to be a little out of left field, but I listened to this yesterday and I loved it. But the Polish war metal band called Graveland.
Nice.
So it's a little all over the place these days.
Good
stuff, man.
And you just finished producing an album that's going to be coming out by Porter?
Yes, by Chris. That's right. We worked on that a little bit over a year ago at my friend Britton's studio in Austin. It was great. It was a lot of fun. I think we only had 4 or 5 days. It was a pretty short session, but very, very productive. And I'm excited for that thing to hopefully come out before too long. It was a really, really fun session to do.
Excellent. Well, Will, for the final question here, man, let's say Will Johnson is up to bat in the major leagues. What's going to be his walk-up song?
I lost sleep on this a little bit last night. You guys mentioned you might ask me that. But I found one. I really like, and it's a song I've been coming back to a little bit lately, just from this hip-hop artist that I really love named Madlib, and he's a very well-known producer and collaborator. But there's a song that he's got called that he's put together called The Rumble, and about the 30-second mark of that song is right where I would probably want to drop the song in over a stadium PA system. My daughter's obsessed with the song. She really loves it too, and I think that would have to be my pick right now, just right behind maybe like Head Over Heels by Tears for Fears, which I love a lot too.
Right on.
Nice.
Nice. Good choice. Well, everybody can find out more about Will's music and his paintings at will-johnson.com. Will, keep up the great work, and we really appreciate you talking to us, man.
Thank you guys so much for having me along. I think you guys are doing a really cool thing here, and congrats on the podcast, and onward, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
we appreciate it, Will.
All right, well, big thanks to Will Johnson for coming on the show and talking about his music.
Yeah,
and absolutely, and his artwork as well, which he does some really, really cool. He talked about during the interview some really cool baseball paintings. You can find out more about Will at will-johnson.com. Find out about his music, tour dates, his artwork.
Yeah,
really nice guy.
I highly recommend if anybody's ever hosted a living room show. I've hosted Will 3 times now here in Kansas City for a living room show. He literally just shows up, like you said, with his acoustic guitar, and he sits down and plays a set for, we have about 20-25 people in the house that buy tickets, and it's a pretty awesome experience, especially to have one of your favorite songwriters play in your living room, let alone to have it done 3 times. So people should really try to jump on that bandwagon and hosting these musicians. It's a pretty neat deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so go to the website and you can find out more about the living room tours that Will's doing.
Check out the paintings for sure. I think everybody should. They're really cool.
The paintings are great. Yeah.
Absolutely, and check out Will's got a great catalog of music behind him too, and in front of him as well. So we look forward to what he's going to do next. So this gets us to the point of the show where our bullpen session, where we recommend some stuff we've been listening to lately that we recommend to you, and we'll post on our website kind of where you can find out more about the bands, post a couple clips from YouTube, whether live or studio, kind of the best stuff we can find from the artist. So I want to go ahead and, Jonathan, why don't you start us, and then we'll go over to Levi, and then I'll talk about mine a little bit as well. So what have you been listening to?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and make another plug here for Will. It's my favorite Centro-matic album. It's called Fort Recovery. This came out in 2006. It was a few albums ago for them, and it's awesome songwriting, awesome production. They do a lot of their own production, and it's pretty great. There's even a baseball bent on this one, a song called Calling Thermatico, which while they played here on this tour, they played down the street at the record bar. I believe Calling Thermatico was dedicated to Bo Jackson.
Nice.
That night.
Guy knows his baseball too. He does.
Oh yeah. And I think I've heard or read Will say that he wrote it about Barry Bonds and kind of the steroid era and the idea of these guys kind of being superheroes.
Right.
Centro-matic, Fort Recovery. Though check out their whole catalog. It's pretty phenomenal.
Cool.
Yeah, nice.
Fort Recovery by Centro-matic. Excellent. Levi, what about you?
Well, my Texas link is a band called Whoa Fat that I found.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
And it's WO-FAT, which is also, I guess, the name of the villain in Hawaii Five-0.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
And so they're a Texas stoner doom metal band from Dallas, and they formed around 2003. And the record I've been listening to is called The Black Code, and it's from 2012. And it's just, I don't know, if I had to compare it to something, it would be maybe like is it Caius?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say it has a little bit of that kind of a sound to it, but it's excellent. And I want to throw in really fast, I just found this record yesterday. They're not from Texas, but I want to show it off. I had no idea what it was. It said Count Buffalo's Emergency. I was like, it's $2. I'm going to buy it. It is from Japan, and it's an Japanese jazz disco funk record.
Nice.
With this drummer.
Waiting for someone to say that.
Yeah, like I guess this famous drummer is the leader of the band. He was famous in Japan. His name was Akira Ishikawa. And he's got his picture in here, and he's got a little afro and like glasses and this little Fu Manchu and drumsticks. Yeah, it's awesome.
Nice.
And it's a really, really good record for just never ever hearing of them.
Right on.
Yeah, there's so many good kind of, I don't know, global discoveries, find out there. I mean, there's so much good music being made and has been made in other parts of the world that, thanks to the internet, the internet's certainly taken its toll on some, on certain the music industry, but it's also just kind of opened up a huge world of of different music that's really happening in a lot of different corners of the world. So good recommendation.
Yeah,
so,
we should.
Sorry, could you repeat the title again, Levi?
The band is called Count Buffaloes.
Count Buffaloes. Okay.
Yeah, and the name of the album is called Emergency.
Cool.
And what the first thing that drew me to it is at the top it says Pro Direct Cut, which is like kind of like an audiophile term for like this record's gonna sound really good.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, I'll check it out, for what it was. And it's on Toshiba EMI. I guess Capital EMI was partnered with Toshiba in Japan.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
We'll have to include that in the
international.
international.
There are some YouTube videos, I think, of it.
Cool.
Yeah. We'll dig it up, and we'll put it in our international scouting portion of the blog where we talk about international music. Nice. That'll definitely be included.
Yeah, definitely. Good deal. The since we're talking about Texas and Japan, but to talk about Texas as well. Levi mentioned this band Woe Fat, who I've heard, and I dig them as well. There is another band that's kind of I don't want to do them a disservice by saying they're cut from the same cloth, but certainly share some of the same influences that Woe Fat, and that's a band called The Sword.
Excellent.
The Sword's from the Austin area, and I think they put out 4 or 5 records now, and really good stuff. They're
great band.
They're certainly in the stoner metal genre. The thing I like about, you play any of the bands that get that label, like stoner or kind of doom. I like most of it. Like I would say, I probably like 9 because it seems like to me, like Masters of Reality by Black Sabbath is like the blueprint for all of them. And I think that's one of the greatest records ever made.
Well, I actually have a Sword story.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they've played it multiple times, but the year they played Bonnaroo, they played right before Mastodon at the same stage.
Another good heavy band.
Yeah, and I like Mastodon, and we weren't sure what was coming on before. It just said The Sword, and everybody's like, oh, I don't know who they are. And they came out, and the first song they played was How Heavy This Axe,
which is a great song.
Yeah. And they were so loud and so heavy. My friend was like, who the hell are these guys? And I was like, I have no idea. And then I ended up coming home and buying that album.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
They were excellent live.
Absolutely. I like their first record. I like all their records, but I like the first one the most because I think it's the rawest one. I think it's called Age of Winter, I think. We'll double check that, but anyway, their stuff's good. The later records, have kind of better production values, but I really like the rawness of their first record. So good stuff there coming out of Texas. Centro-matic, Woe Fat, and The Sword.
Did you say a specific album there for The Sword?
That one you weren't sure the name.
It's their first one.
Okay.
It's not the one that has
it's
How
Age
Heavy
of
This
Winters.
Axe.
Yeah, Age of Winters is
Yeah.
the one I like a lot.
That second one is the one I ended up buying.
That one's good too. Yeah, they don't really have any bad records.
Well, and believe it or not, at that Bonnaroo, I ended up liking them better than Mastodon.
Oh yeah.
It was just one of those cases where they just came out and impressed more.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They're a little less conceptual than Mastodon is, probably.
Yeah.
But anyway, good stuff coming out of Texas yesterday and today, and hopefully tomorrow too. So, that concludes this episode of Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo. Hope you enjoyed it. You can check out our website at rockchew.com. So, some good stuff there, as well as you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is @rockin. That's the letter N, as in Nancy Chew. And then also you can like us on Facebook as well. So like our Facebook page. You can listen to us on SoundCloud, Downcast.
Consume us.
Yes. Go on iTunes as well. For those of you who do listen to us on, on iTunes, go on there and leave us a good review, please. Because that kind of builds our clout on iTunes. So please do that for us as well, and tell all of your friends. So signing off here, Rock and Roll Shin-Soo Choo, episode 19. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.